Hello, welcome Whale fam. I'm here with the amazing artist Lyonna Lyu. She is an iconographic artist that incorporates Eritrean heritage and African culture in her work, and I'm really excited to learn about the history and her stories behind her work. So thank you for being here, Lyonna.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to finally be here.
Me too, I'm stoked. So can you tell us about your journey into the NFT space and how you found it or how it found you?
Yeah, honestly, I feel as though I kind of stumbled into the NFT space by fate, by destiny. So I've kind of been making art a majority of my life, but I never really took it too seriously until maybe around the summertime. The summer of 2020 was when I actually launched a print website and started selling prints there. And into the fall semester was kind of when I started learning about blockchain, and that was more from an academic perspective because I'm actually in school studying international relations, and so that's kind of what my political background is. And so when I started learning about blockchain and the technology, I started learning about NFTs and what that was about from this community group. And it was basically a Discord group of just very uplifting individuals. And so every day it was just a morning affirmation. We would also talk about stocks and alternative coins and stuff like that. And somebody also brought up hey, are there any artists in the room? Have you heard about NFTs? And I want to say this was back in November. And I was I'm an artist, but have not really heard about NFTs, but I understand blockchain. And so we kind of got into a conversation about that. And that was when I really started learning about the outside capabilities of blockchain aside from just currencies. And that really started to interest me. And so I started, selling my artworks as NFTs. I started learning a lot more about what crypto and that whole world was really about. And I delved into the rabbit hole and everything. And I met some amazing, incredible people, and got acclimated to some incredible communities of people who are really just supportive and uplifting and really just want to see each other gain and win in this space. And so I love it. I love where I am. Shout out One Off. Shout out everybody who has been with me in this NFT crypto journey, and I'm really excited to see where else I end up going from here.
Yeah, me too. And I love that you were in a group that was talking about cryptocurrency but also doing morning affirmations and having this kind of spirituality and mindfulness incorporated into it. I think that's important. And I think it's important that artists and creators who give a fuck about humanity should have lots of money so that they can do good things in the world with it.
Absolutely.
So yeah. And that brings me to my next question. I saw you mention that you're really interested in using blockchain technology and the NFT space to assist in humanitarian efforts. So did you want to talk about how you see that happening, and also how can the whale community be part of that? How can we help?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that NFTs and crypto in general just offers a whole array of different possibilities for local nonprofits and for international organizations as well. So on a very individual level, NFTs have enabled creators and artists and all types of creators to just be able to gain some type of financial freedom in what they create, and they're actually being compensated for what they're making. So that in itself is revolutionary. Another thing that crypto is also enabling us to do is finding newer solutions to some of these age-old problems that are occurring in our world. And so one of the things that I'm really interested in trying to figure out is how NFTs, crypto smart contracts, can help refugees and can help people who are migrating out of very conflict-ridden zones. And so one of the campaigns one of the organizations that I campaign with is called One Day See 'Em. And they're a human rights organization who campaign on behalf of Eritrean refugees who are fleeing the country in East Africa. There's currently a humanitarian crisis going on in the northern Ethiopia region in Tigray. And I don't want to speak too much on that part on its own, because we could really delve into a lot of kind of what's going on in the region. But because of the conflict that's going on there, it's leading to a lot of people being displaced, having to up and leave their homes. They're facing a lot of very serious situations that's putting their lives and their livelihoods and everything at risk. And so the way that I see blockchain really helping us out in one regard is kind of just being able to document identities. So I'm not going to say like I'm an expert in this area. I am just a person who is looking at things that are in front of us and trying to find other ways that we're able to utilize them that can help our fellow man. And so one issue that I'm always hearing about is just people not being able to have documentation to sign up, let's say, for the UNHCR's services because they lost ID or because they weren't able to obtain it from a corrupt government. And so like issues like that are things that blockchain has the capability to address and to help with, just by being able to put documentation, put identities, put deeds to homes, deeds to properties that are rightfully theirs on the blockchain, so that it cannot be damaged or tampered with or lost, like when they're having to flee for their lives.
Wow, yeah, and I mean, you say you're like just a person, but the idea is there, and that's the most important thing. And once you get it out there, you know, I'm glad that we have you here to talk about it, because we have a community of 10,000 people, and I'm sure at least one of them has the ability or capability to help make this happen and help people have access to everything they need through blockchain. Yeah, that's really amazing. And so One Day See 'Em, is this something that like you volunteer for them, right? You said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I campaign. They're an international organization, so I believe they're based in the UK. Vanessa, who's standing there in the center, she's the founder. And so they have different volunteers throughout the world. I've communicated with people from Canada, from the East Coast of the United States, people who are in Sweden. So they're really a global effort of Eritreans in the diaspora who are trying to confront the dictatorship in Eritrea and try to bring awareness to what's going on there. And that's another amazing aspect too. Like, you're just going through the team, and it's just a very powerful and determined group of amazing young women who are leading this effort. And Vanessa is actually, she recently, I think, became a contributor for Amnesty International for the Horn of Africa. So she's been on the spotlight, like bringing a lot of international attention to the Tigray crisis.
It's really great what you're doing and what Vanessa is doing and the team, and that it's a group of Black women that are leading this effort. I think that in the NFT space and in the humanitarian space, it's like, well, actually, in like a lot of spaces, it's white male. It's like every space is white male dominated, and we really need to hear perspectives from other people and people who are actually experiencing hardships and challenges and being in war zones. And yeah, and hearing from people who understand it. And it's really amazing to see some of the images in your art are so striking. Like, speaking of strong women, a lot of these images of women looking absolutely beautiful, but like holding AK-47s, and it's like this, what's the word? It's not a disconnect. It's like you're embodying all these parts and the experiences that these women have. When did you start becoming interested in sharing these images, and why is it important to you?
So this image right here is of a Saho woman. So interesting part about Eritrean women is that when we were fighting for liberation for 30 years from Ethiopia, around 30% of the Eritrean army was women, and they served in so many different capacities. They were nurses, they were spies, they were soldiers, they held guns, and they were on the front lines, and they fought alongside their brothers in the revolution. And so I'm really inspired by learning about these women from my academic studies, of course, because I would have to write about, just gender discrepancies and what the experiences of Eritrean women in war were. Is there any differences between, between the treatment of women at that time compared to now? And as I learned about all these women's experiences, I was really inspired by them to create these images in the way that you kind of described right there, that demonstrates their beauty, their tenacity, their strength, their resilience, everything that encompasses an Eritrean woman. I tried to portray in these images, and I also wanted to pay honor to all of the different ethnic groups within Eritrea. So this one here is of a Hadadab, or a Beja woman. And this is actually the traditional dance that she's doing, where they use their neck movements. And in it, I also blended some elements of African American history too, because of the ways that I use beads in the hair. So at the end, throughout the braids, it's kind of adorned with some traditional jewelries. And towards the end of the braids, I was thinking of how my braids used to be styled growing up. I would always have these huge bobos, or these balls wrapped up at the ends of them. But in my head, I was thinking, what if I made them, just kind of AK-47 shells, Kalashnikov shells, because that was the weapons that Eritrean women used in battle. And so I actually didn't share a lot of my artworks until I started selling them as prints. I think beforehand, I would kind of just after I was finished with something, I would kind of just post it on an Instagram story, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really know that my art really resonated with people, or that people saw my art differently than how I actually anticipated to be seen, until I started showing some of my friends at school. And they're really the ones who kind of encouraged me to set up an online store and to start selling prints, because it resonated with them and it made them feel a particular way. And I also wanted to share that with other people too. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's really important to have friends that big you up and encourage you to sell your art and share it. And it's not even just for the money, but the stories that are behind this art. They're important for the world to know. I mean, I'm learning a lot from looking at your art and then hearing you talk about it. I'm glad that you're doing it, and I think that it's important that artists like you, have friends that want to put you out there and have a platform to, share this with the world. Like you said, it's a lot of this. We see a lot of the same stories, and if we don't see ourselves in the stories that are publicized and given platforms, then we kind of like disappear a little bit subconsciously, consciously.
Yeah. Subconsciously, conscious, and like also in the larger context of like humanity too. Like we also want our stories to be known and to be present all through time. And that's another thing that I really like appreciate crypto, NFTs, and blockchain for it as well, is that it enables us to put traces of ourselves into a space for all of time, in a space that can't be destroyed, can't be I guess it can be to an extent, but like there's always gonna be a trace.
Yeah. If there's like an electromagnetic pulse that destroys everything, then maybe. But like ultimately it's there and it can't be tampered with, which hopefully it remains that way. You know, humans might find a way. Sorry.
Like that's just like so key when we talk about like culture, and we talk about like different groups of people too. Just because like one, we're able to like trace who was the original creator, who was the originator, but again, like we're also able to kind of like recognize that there was, again, like a people here. And so like when I learn about history, like one of the things that really devastates me is learning about all of the art and learning about all of the buildings and the statues and everything that kind of like made the people, made them who they were, their culture, like everything that was kind of like ingrained in their system, like all of that just is destroyed by a conflict, or by a bomb, or by, you know, just in general, it's usually a misunderstanding, like just people just not being able to really like adjust or get to know each other, understand each other, and that leads to entire civilizations being wiped out. And so like that never sat right with me, and I think that is another like really driving factor for why I'm putting like my culture onto the blockchain, because of the fact that like the region that my family is from is so conflict ridden that like a huge fear of mine is just like the culture and the people themselves just being lost, like everything just being wiped out, being destroyed, whether it's physically or even whether it's the humans themselves. Like it's very it's devastating, and it's very like scary. But again, like what this blockchain enables us to do is just put our people and put our culture, put our history, put everything that is ourselves on an individual level, on a community level, in a place that can't be destroyed.
Yeah, and I got like chills and got emotional listening to that, because it's horrible what's happened to so many cultures, and not just through conflict, but just like pillaging, and like the museums in different parts of the world that have stolen artifacts and they're not with the people who they belong to. I think it's important that you know, we continue to use blockchain as a way to document history and culture, and it's a way that it can't be taken from the people who created it. Yeah. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, what you said just like made me really curious, like about museums having stolen artifacts and such. And so like I'm really curious about like how moving forward, if those artifacts will be returned, if that means that like we can make a 3D like NFT rendition of it or something along those lines. I don't know, just a thought that that just came to me like when you were talking. Like that's really interesting, and I mean, I would love to see artifacts returned to the land that they were taken from. Like that would be really cool.
Yeah, and I love that idea that we can use blockchain as a way to share these cultures without taking from people and stealing or destroying it, or all the terrible things that have been done. It's such a cool idea. I'm just now my mind's like thinking of like what it could look like, and having like a metaverse space. And I feel like that's something, you know, we could be contacting these major, what would you call them? Like the organizations like the Metropolitan Museum of Art and I don't know, like the Louvre and just, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was thinking like the Smithsonian, like that.
The Smithsonian. Exactly.
Have, year-round
that
access, especially now when it's like majority closed off.
Mm-hmm. And they could give artifacts back to the rightful owners and still have these pieces displayed for the world to learn about all these cultures. And that's like something that's totally possible. And I don't see why the Smithsonian wouldn't want to do that. Like, it would be so good. It would be so good. Like, it just makes so much sense. Like, why wouldn't we do it? So you mentioned you were studying international affairs in school. Mm-hmm. So you're still studying?
Yeah, so I'm still a full-time student. And yeah, so I study international relations at American University in DC. I've kind of been out there for would have been 2 years, but I ended up coming back to California. So now I'm in California. But yeah, so I'm studying international affairs. My emphasis is on Sub-Saharan Africa, Horn of Africa. And again, I feel as though like initially when I first delved into this major, I knew I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to study politics. I knew I wanted to understand it, but I definitely did not truly understand how difficult it is to make some like impactful changes. And honestly, like I definitely did get very discouraged throughout my studies because of how difficult I found it to be authentic to myself, while also being like a cog in the wheel and like a part of a larger. I think it's more like in the government aspect where it becomes very complicated, especially like on an international field, to really like make some impactful changes. Because like I said, there's just so much redlining and there's so much that goes in that kind of like blocks things from really happening. And so I definitely feel as though like with my international affairs background, I could probably utilize it more effectively, like within, again, blockchain technology or within the crypto realm than I would in the typical like government sector.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I was the area trying to explore.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. It seems like you could be much more effective on a grassroots level through the use of blockchain technology. Sorry for the background noise. Like just help people more directly too, without this like bureaucratic government red tape in the way. And you had mentioned that you felt a little discouraged being in that space, and I was curious, like, as we like touched on before, you know, a lot of spaces are very male dominated, and even with the NFT space now, we're starting to see an influx of artists and creators that already have a huge platform outside of the NFT space. And do you feel like the NFT space is still maintaining and nurturing a space that's more egalitarian for women, for people of color, for LGBT folks? Or do you think maybe this influx of people might drown that out and it's just going to become another space that's dominated by the same people that dominate everything else?
Right. Yeah, because like this space is, you know, decentralized doesn't mean that the same tools of oppression and systems of oppression, you know, from reality doesn't seep its way into the metaverse as well. So like that's very true. The thing that I can speak on is that yes, a lot of the players who have been making like the most like the most amount of money with their drops that I've seen largely are like white males. But at the same time, I'm also seeing a lot of communities being built around Black artists, around women artists, around LGBTQ creators as well. And so I mean, yes, we are seeing like a lot of white men, you know, make their sales and get their collabs and all that jazz. But at the same time, I'm also seeing like a lot of communities being built around groups that are, you know, typically more vulnerable or more likely to be kind of disenfranchised. So I can't, you know, really say like, oh, like white men are just like taking up the space and are you know, just dominating the area, because of the fact that like I am grateful and gracious enough to recognize the fact that there are so many other communities who are recognizing that and are building their own spaces as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what groups like One Off create. I'm really excited to see like the different galleries that they put up, and I'm really excited to see like how like women in crypto art and all these other galleries how they continue to grow and flourish now that more creators and more people who align with those identities are becoming introduced to the space and, you know, are getting the flowers that they really do deserve.
Yeah, I hear that. And there's something about just inherent in blockchain technology, and that I feel like there's this abundance of room for everybody to have success in whatever that looks like for them, and to build communities together that celebrate each other, that people can be authentically themselves, and they, you know, are seen for who they are and compensated handsomely for it is like really beautiful. Yeah, I always like to ask that question. I think sometimes people think that because these like bigger names are coming through that it's somehow a threat, but there's instinctively I feel like it doesn't matter. I think that if anything, it's bringing attention to the space, and it puts more eyes on the artists that people don't know about too. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
And like I also think that because like people are aware of, I feel like a lot of the people who are kind of in the crypto space are like, their ears are kind of keen to how different groups are kind of oppressed in like the physical space. And so I feel like a lot of people intentfully try to counter those modes of oppression like in the crypto space. At least that's what I'm noticing, and I'm really grateful for that too. So it's really cool because I just see like I just see us being able to progress so much quicker the more people get acclimated and learn about NFTs. And like I just feel like these last few months, like so many people have kind of been like learning about them, learning what they can do with them, and like with that is going to be like just an influx of innovation and different art. Like I'm so excited for all of this new art and different things to just kind of just like in our face, because that's really what's going to come out of this, is that so many people are going to be able to have access to showcase like what's going on in their heads, and like I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, and I look at your art, and it's definitely, it stands out. It's totally unique from a lot of what's out there in the NFT space, and also just that it's speaking to these real stories. You know, I was actually curious about, I know there's a description of it, but the story behind this piece, The Spirit's Visit on Lede. That's the name of this one, correct? Yes.
So,
yeah.
Yes, The Spirit's Visit on Lede.
Lede, excuse me.
So this one I made on on the traditional Orthodox Christmas. And so you'll kind of notice that throughout a lot of my digital art. I use this like iconographic style in it. And so like a lot of what highlights like Ethiopian, Eritrean traditional art, it's like the really big eyes, the stories that depict like religious stories, and like very vibrant colors. And so like that's really what I wanted to stay true to in some of these pieces. And also I wanted to portray it in a way that I saw the stories, because a lot of the times like religious art doesn't really reflect the individuals or the people who are the characters in the stories. I don't know what I'm really trying to say. I guess like a lot of the times like in religious imagery and stuff like that, like a lot of the times the characters are more like white or more fair skinned. Even growing up, I grew up Orthodox Christian, and in the church I would see a lot of these icons that were like of white men or of white characters in general. And I always wondered, like, if we're the ones painting it, like why don't we paint them like to reflect us? Like why does it have to be like a particular way? And so like I was always amazed by these paintings like in our church, not because of the skin color, but because like they're just so beautiful. Like they're just so detailed, they're just so intricate, and at the same time they're very simplistic. Like if you ever looked at Ethiopian iconography, like it's very simple in the way that it's drawn. It looks like it's almost done with like maybe like 2 or 3 like whisks, but it's like it's beautiful. It's really beautiful and very like I would there's a lot of times honestly like I would literally just catch myself staring just at an icon. Like I would literally get lost staring at some of these icons like in our churches because they're so beautiful, because I would wonder like what were they thinking, like what was this artist thinking when they created this, or like you know how, or even something as bare as trying to figure out like where did they get the equipment to paint this, like just thinking back like to where like my parents grew up. Like my parents grew up in like the villages of Eritrea in Highland, Ajifala, and I would just think like where did they even get equipment to make something like this? Because even in the churches, like when I visited families' homes back in Eritrea, like I would still see like these very detailed and very beautiful brush strokes and icons like in our churches back home too. And so I was always just like fascinated by how it was created, and again just going back to like our humanity, and always like wanting to create, wanting to make art, wanting to tell stories like through art and through imagery. So this one, Spirit to Visit on Lidet, I made while me and my mom and my dad were all drinking coffee on Ethiopian or Orthodox Christmas. So that's actually celebrated on January 7th of every year. And so what we'll do, we will get our Christmas tree maybe like a week before like Christmas, before like December 25th is really when we'll get our Christmas tree, just so that it lasts up until, like
until January.
Just until it lasts like January.
That's funny.
But we don't do any like the present stuff. Like we really just like listen to different verses from the Bible. We'll sing some church songs, and drink coffee. Like coffee, huge in East African culture.
That sounds really cool, and that you have that time with your family every year, and that's like what's been inspiring you is your family, your culture, and your history. And actually, one of the questions that we have was, how do you get inspired for a new piece, and do you ever get artist block?
Oh man, I definitely get artist block. When I do get an artist block, I kind of end up just swallowing it and taking in some more art, because what that tells me is that like I've kind of regurgitated and played with a lot of what I have been seeing a little too much, or I'm just seeing a lot of like the same things, and so I kind of just need to expose myself to some different stuff in my life. So whether that's like, you know, watching documentaries or reading through, like, I have a lot of booklets that I grabbed from the Smithsonian, so I'll kind of go through like the museum shops, and I'll buy some of like the booklets that they have of like outdated museum pieces and stuff like that, and I'll kind of just like flip through and see what's been in their archives, or what they have in their archives, and I'll kind of just like keep myself going that way. The latest piece that I actually have, I actually love this one. The one that you have up right now is Switches in Battle. I think that was like one of the latest pieces that I dropped from this collection called Gual America. And what that means is Girl of America. So Gual is girl in Tigrinya. And so like that's actually like low-key a little derogatory like name that I would get called from like my cousins and uncles who live like either in Europe or in like somewhere scattered in Africa. Like I have cousins and uncles who are all over the continent, and they would always make fun of me, and they would just call me like, because I was so Americanized compared to like the rest of the family, and so like they'll call me like Gual America, and so like it's kind of a play on that. But with this series, the series is actually gonna encompass 3 different images. I kind of already have them planned out, but this is the first that I've released, where I kind of infuse elements of Black American culture with Eritrean culture. And so like this one is showing 2 different kinds of hoppers. So we have a Chevy Impala 64 switch that is hopping. I did the paint style kind of influenced from one of my favorite rappers. His name is Currency, and I have that juxtaposed with a Tigray dancer, a Tigray warrior, and so he's one of the 9 tribe members, ethnic groups in Eritrea, and this is literally how they dance. Like their dance is hopping and hopping high. So the highest,
That's so cool.
The highest as you get is you want to be that person. Like, you want to be the person who obviously got the most amount of air, whether you're in a 64 in Oakland or whether you're in the streets of Adihola. Like you want to be the highest in the air. And so like I took those 2 elements and I kind of fused them together for this piece here. And yeah, I'm really excited for the rest of them coming out. I think that I was able to sell this one for 1 week. Really excited.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah. Yeah, this isn't a question, DC. He just said, I also really love this art. And we're getting quite a few comments like that. People are just saying this art is beautiful. Thank you. Adding culture to your art is so powerful. I love your style.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. There's a question that it's a little long, so I just want to read it really quick.
Oh, no problem.
They said you add a lot of culture into your art. Is that your favorite form of art? And they said, dang, so young and talented. I love it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I definitely think that culture influences a lot of my artwork. It influences a lot of who I am, and how I've seen myself growing up as well, and kind of just trying to navigate this space of being like first generation, born to 2 immigrants, just trying to like really navigate and understand like the complex identity of being like Eritrean, of being also Black American, and so I think that because of the fact that like I've kind of just like struggled so much in trying to understand like what these 2 different worlds were, that I didn't really appreciate the fact that they can be one. And so like I'm really trying to reflect that in my artwork, because I don't think there is a difference. Like when people ask like where I'm from, or like, you know, what I am, like first thing I'll say is I'm Black. because like that's the first thing that people see when they see me. They see a Black woman. And then I'll get the question like, no, like, what are you? Like, where are you from? Where your family's from? And that's when I'll be able to say like, oh, I'm Eritrean. Oh, I'm from the Tigrinya ethnic group. I'll be able to I'll be able to delve a little bit deeper. But first things first, the first, like, when people like see me, that's who I am. I'm a Black woman. And that's, you know, and I also, I definitely do reflect that a lot in my artwork. And I got a message on one of my artworks today, this morning actually, about that. Like they had basically said like if you're Eritrean, like the Eritrean experience is not the same as the Black experience. And I was like, you can't say that. Like, it's not a monolith. Like, you can't say everybody's experiencing America the same way. Like, it's a very closed-minded way to to view you know, people's experiences, especially like, again, just the fact that like I'm first generation Eritrean immigrant. Like, yes, I understand like where my family is from, like that's one aspect that you can say, but you definitely can't say that just because I'm Eritrean American, that I'm not Black American. Like, those two things can definitely like exist together. And so
Yeah.
it really bothers me when people, I get that comment a lot on my artwork, especially like from fellow Eritreans, which bothers me too, because there's like this inherent like anti-Blackness within the Eritrean community, which is like really disappointing. But just this wanting to dissociate from being Black, I can't, that doesn't sit right with me. And so like you'll definitely like see that a lot in my artwork reflected as well. Like, I'm proud of being Black, but I'm also proud of being American and Eritrean as well. Like, all of those identities exist, and they make who I am. So I can't fight any of it.
You know, and I really feel like that's coming through in all of your work, is that your characters are real, like their stories are real, and they're multifaceted, their experiences are multifaceted, who they are is multifaceted, and it's not just like you said, it's not a monolith. The experience of a single person, just because they're also Black, is not a monolith. And you know, speaking of being multifaceted, I know that you're a model as well. So what is that like for you? Like, how is that tied in with your art? And do you see yourself doing something with modeling and blockchain NFTs in the future?
Oh, that's really interesting. I haven't really thought as far as like, you know, meshing NFTs and modeling. But I would say that modeling was probably like one of my first instances of really being able to feel as though I was able to express who I am. One of the things that I like really tried to stay true to throughout my modeling career was maintaining that 4C hair. And so I never let any studio, I never let any designer or anybody like apply any type of heat to that hair, because I was also going through like a natural hair journey. So I was trying to understand like how to take care of my hair, how to appreciate it, how to love every aspect of it. And through modeling, I was really able to amplify that, because I was able to put myself in positions where I definitely did see like Black models, but not necessarily in the city that I was living in. And so I wanted to make sure that I was representing like who I was. I was also showing like a lot of Eritrean jewelry and a lot of Eritrean clothing throughout my personal creative shoots too. But yeah, just again, making sure that I first and foremost represented who I was as an Eritrean and Black woman has always been at the forefront of my creative journey, like whether it was modeling or whether it has been like, you know, creating art. And you know, we were kind of having this conversation earlier, like I didn't really have my modeling portfolio up until a lot recently, because I was kind of just like focusing on art. But I definitely do want to see like other ways that I could kind of push my own limits with modeling and with NFTs. I'm really inspired by, I believe their name is Sam J Studios on Twitter, and how they kind of like utilize filmography, and I don't know, maybe that's something that I'll experiment with at some point.
Yeah, because I remember seeing your Twitter post that you weren't sure if you should include this on your site, and I was like, this is like part of who you are and part of what informs your experience. And like you said, it's really important that as a model that you are standing up for yourself, so that you're seen for who you are. I think that just in general, like models are kind of seen as like meat hangers, and I think also it's just really important too for Black women to be able to celebrate their natural hair and not have their skin lightened, not have their hair straightened, or like seen like nightmare stuff on like the Today Show where I can't remember who, like, yeah, I think you might have seen it. It was like so famous. This woman just like took this poor woman's hair and like put it in a messy bun and like didn't put any product in it, and it just was like cruel what happened. It's just like having this white lady who's never touched Black hair. It's like, why don't we have hair and makeup artists who are Black women who know about this? And
right.
So I think it's just really important that, as a model, that you're fiercely standing up for who you are. And it helps other models too. And I don't know, it's being yourself is really important. Like, it's like an old saying, and like when you're a kid, you're just like, what the fuck do you mean be yourself? I am myself. What are you talking about? And as you get older, you start to understand like there's like these powers that be and things at play that make it really hard to do that. And depending on who you are, it's harder.
Man. And the way that you say that really just reminds me of one of the last runway shows that I've ever done. And it was actually because of a peaceful protest that I ended up getting kind of booted from Fashion Week in my local city because
their loss.
Facts.
Big loss.
Yeah, so damn, it was a while ago. It was Fashion Week. It was like February actually. Wow, it was not that long ago. It was February of like 2018, I want to say 2018, 2019. And I basically ended up holding up a banner that read "Jail Killer Cops." Hashtag Stephon Clark. Stephon Clark was a man in Sacramento, California, who was actually shot in his grandmother's backyard by two officers. And so that story actually made national headlines. And the day of Fashion Week, of that fashion show, I think there was a vigil going on in the community. I wasn't able to go because of the show, but I also wanted to demonstrate some of my own solidarity with the family and with the community who was out there still hurting. And so I held up this banner that had said, "Jail Killer Cops," hashtag Stephon Clark. The killer read KKK, like in red. And because of that peaceful protest, I ended up holding it going down like the finale at the end of the show. And at the end of it, I just remember like the producer assistant kind of coming up to me saying like, "Were you allowed to do that?" And I was like, "No." But
not the point.
That's not the point. Yeah, one, that's not the point. Two, I'm not even getting paid to be here. But like, yeah. And so after that whole ordeal kind of went down, I kind of just like up and left, like almost like immediately. Like once I was able to change, I was like, all right, I don't even want to be here anymore, just like based off of that initial reaction. But
you should have been saying thank you.
Yeah, honestly. Like the main reason why I wanted to do that was to just again bring attention to what was going on in our community, because it just seemed as though like a lot of Sacramento enjoys utilizing Black people, Black individuals, Black culture without really paying any respects to what a lot of Black people in Sacramento have to deal with. And so I wanted to bring some attention to that, and ended up getting me blackballed from Fashion Week, but it's all good.
It is all good. I think it's, you know, it's leading you to, you know, I feel like you've been living out your purpose by sharing who you are through your art, and through modeling, and through, you know, just being yourself on social media and sharing what your experience. You know, being in Fashion Week, you know, if they're not even going to let you hold up a sign and you don't even get to speak, then, you know, that stage isn't going to work for you as well as, you know, the NFT space or, you know, wherever it is that you're showing your work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as an artist, as a model, like I feel as though just being a creator in general, like you're always met with these different like boxes and limitations that you have to be held within. So to not like offend people, or two, just because it doesn't really like fit a brand, or something along those lines. But like that doesn't really like sit right with me. Like having to adjust who I am just so that like another thing or another person, another being like feels comfortable, or whatever comfortable may be, but at the same time it's making me uncomfortable, does not sit right with me at all. And so like that's really what I try to, you know, hold dear and hold true to, like with any type of creative expression, is to just be authentic to who I believe I am, and those who I believe I represent, or, you know, I'm able to speak for with the platform that I'm given.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a courageous and a radical act to do that, especially as a woman and as a Black woman, because like people want to be made to feel comfortable, and to just be yourself anyway, and to share your experience, regardless of that. Like as an artist in general, like it's important to not worry about what other people think, or else you're just going to be stuck trying to please everybody, and you're not going to get to be you or share yourself because you're like, well, I don't want to upset them or something. And it's interesting that people get offended when they're being educated too. You know?
That part.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share some of the comments that are coming through from our chat. Dali85 says that the work that's being done is great, that in a single image, the religion, the culture of the country, and the family bond are shown. And Filipino says that very few people can demonstrate all these things with art, and we're the presence of an artist who's succeeded. So, yeah.
Thank you.
They're absolutely right. Yeah, and NBG actually is just resonating with that conversation. It's so exhausting to have to edit yourself for someone else's comfort, and it's not healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm excited for just all these different communities popping up within the NFT space where people get to be themselves. They're encouraged to share these stories that in other spaces they're told to be quiet or shut up or go away.
Yeah. Having a, you know, like watered down versions of themselves. Like I think that's really what I've kind of noticed the most, is that in a lot of spaces, like they'll say like, oh, we want you to be yourself. We want you to, you know, to speak.
But not like that.
To say, you know, what it is that you really would like to say. But in reality, it's more of a like, we would just like, you know, just a watered down version, like a summary of it, or, you know, there's only so far that you can go without being like mislabeled, like over emotional or irrational or something along those lines. And I'm just like, either you're trying to hear me, or you just want to hear me at a certain level so that you feel as though you're educated or that you're woke or something along those lines. Like, you're not really trying to hear what it is I'm trying to tell you right now.
Right. I mean, it's like, I feel like, I've been in different spaces as an artist where, I noticed that like Black artists or women or people of color or in other marginalized groups are being used as like to make it look like, oh, we've included people, but they're not being really included by being allowed to use their voices fully. They just kind of show their art and maybe they're not even being paid. And it's just really, it's disconcerting, like this, just trying to look a certain way. And I also feel like that keeps some artists from putting themselves out there too, because they might be treated like that and not be able to be fully authentically themselves. And, they're being robbed of other opportunities just because of this. I don't know how to just like, there's not like, just because of this culture of like, like you said, like wanting to look woke or something, or wanting to appear inclusive. Yeah, exactly.
It's like this weird, like, wanting to be perceived a certain way, and so I'm not really gonna put the work and effort in to be that particular way. It's like, why are you even trying to fake us right now? Like, why even try? But yeah, like, that's another thing that I'm really grateful for with this NFT space, is that it's just allowing individuals and allowing creators to just like be who they are and should demonstrate and show all aspects of who they are, and not give a fuck if somebody's gonna accept them or not, because like they're able to access so many different types of creators and collectors as well. Like, it's not even just about you yourself, like, putting your work out there, but just the fact that it's resonating with other individuals like across this planet is incredible to me. And that's another reason why I don't think I'll ever stop creating, because of the fact that, like, I just know that if I'm feeling a particular way and I feel as though I need to express this through imagery, then I know that there's somebody else on this planet who probably is feeling the exact same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just like warmed my heart. It's really true. Like, you might feel like you're alone in an experience, but I don't think we ever really are. And I think art and music are like the primary ways that we get to like share that with each other and get to not feel so alone. So I can't believe, I say this every time, I'm like, I can't believe we're almost at an hour already. The conversation just flew for me. So I was curious, like, is there anything that, any advice that you wish you had received when you first got into the NFT space? Like, what would you tell a budding artist trying to get into the space now?
I would tell an artist trying to get into NFTs 2 different things. One, to stay true to you, and to not create based on what's being collected. Because I think that when you first kind of dip your toes into the space, that you kind of see a theme of different things that are, being collected or being bought. That might discourage somebody from, wanting to actually like mint or post something that they really did want to share. But I think that it's really important that artists kind of remember what type of art they're creating, why they're creating, and to not lose sight of that, because because there's been a couple of times where I'm just like, is 2D art really for me? Like, I can spend some time on Blender, but I don't think that I would be able to put as much of myself like into those pieces, because I'm so focused on trying to learn something completely new. And so I would definitely say, like, stay true to your art form, and just try to improve on it. Don't change who you are. And I would also say that it's really important to build community in this space. So, you know, finding a lot of people who, you know, you can talk with, support, uplift, buy from, whose work you would like to share and, you know, talk about as well too. Like, these are the people who build your circle. And from these circles, like, that's how our circles enlarge, is that we continue to share, we continue to post, we continue to uplift those who are closest to us, until they blow. And at the end of the day, like, we all just want to see each other win. There's so much room and there's so much space for all of us here.
Yes, I love that abundant mindset. I feel like I would say 100% of the artists that we've had on here have that belief that, it's the truth that whether it's in the NFT space or not, like the world, the universe is abundant. It's just a matter of people behaving in a way that allows for all of us to receive that. And I feel like, you know, this space is really magical, and I think it's fostering that. And there's so many like sub communities within it that, you know, everybody gets to have a platform and a space to show their work and have their work be, you know, consumed and paid for, and that the artist can receive royalties on that forever, and that it lives forever on the blockchain as a piece of history.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really fucking awesome. And I also wanted to ask you, which piece would you say has been, or project that you've worked on has been the biggest learning experience for you as an artist, and why?
Oh man. To be honest, probably the one that I'm going to be dropping later today. So I don't even think it's on my Instagram. I think I have it on my website. But it is of, and then if you go to NFT, yeah. So this John right here, I'm gonna have one colorized version and then 3 line art versions that I'll be releasing later today. But this one right here has honestly been like the biggest learning experience for me, just because I learned a lot about the Archangel Michael while I was making this piece. And so my family actually celebrates the Archangel every year in October. And so we have like this huge feast, like this huge celebration for the Archangel. And I understood, like, you know, we celebrate the angels, we speak our prayers through them. But I didn't really understand like how significant this angel like was to my family in particular, until like I started asking questions while I was creating this. And so like I understood, I learned about like how my mother and my older sister, like, they left Eritrea on, we call it Michele, which is like the day that the Archangel is celebrated. There's actually a day of every single month that I recently learned where the angel is celebrated, and the big feast one that my family does is in October. So like I learned that during one of these days, like one of these Michele days, was when like my family fled the war. I learned that through speaking through prayer and through my mom's prayer to this angel was how like they found safety. Like she truly believes that it's through her prayers to the angel that like our family is safe and that our family is like in this first world nation at this point. And I hold that really true and dear to myself and to who I am. And then also at the same point, we had this really interesting conversation about like, again, like what the Black experience is, what's the Eritrean experience here in America, because of the fact that like I like a lot of my background is like community activism too. So like I go to protests, I organize protests. I get kicked out of Fashion Week because of protests. Like it kind of just followed me. And, during the revolution is what I really like to say, like over the George Floyd protests last summer, was when I was like every single day active and in the streets of Sacramento. And it was really like aggravating my parents because it was just not like registering for them that like when I fight for Black Americans, like it's not just for Black Americans, it's also for Eritrean Americans. It's also for you. It's also for like every other family member that we have that's living like in these conditions. Like it's not, there's no separation there. And so like when I was creating this piece was really when like me and my family really were having like some really difficult and deep conversations about like what being Black is here, what being Eritrean is, what that means for us here as well. And yeah, it really just made me appreciate like my family's journey and my place presently. And so that's why I would just say like this project has like it's made me learn and reflect on so much, like so much. So I appreciate the art for that. One, yes, it's beautiful, I made that. But also like just I've learned so much about my family, and I know that they've learned so much from me and my own experience, just being able to talk to them about like why I'm creating this to begin with.
It looks like Heather has accidentally dropped there. Maybe she had some connection issues, but
Aw.
How you doing?
I mean, I'm doing pretty good. I'm hanging out.
Yeah, just everything. So I've been watching here. I've been actually kind of doing some other stuff, but also watching. And I have to say, your art is just absolutely fantastic. I love it personally. So we're so excited to have you here. And I've been actually watching our community, and man, they are just going crazy. A lot of support. Just celebrating you as an artist and a person, and
you guys are
yeah, it's awesome. And I think it's been going really good, I have to say. So I don't have hair, and when you were showing your modeling hair, I was like, man, I'm so jealous. It's so cool.
I loved having a fro. Honestly, that's more of like a summertime hair. But good times.
Yeah. My beard grows down, but just the top hair just doesn't happen.
Oh man. It honestly, like I'm so grateful, and I say my prayers every night, because like it's pretty common in my family for like a lot of the men to not have that much hair pushing like past 35-ish, and so I'm praying that my head just stays thick. Like please let me keep this mane for like so many years longer.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just amazing. Like everything, all those pictures and everything you had on the screen, just like so awesome, man.
Thank you. Shout out Heather. Heather was really the one who convinced me to throw it back up there.
Yeah, and you should celebrate it. I mean, that's the thing, But yeah, I see Heather trying to connect. We'll give her a few more seconds. So do you still live in sunny California, or are you?
I do, yeah. So I've kind of just been going back and forth. I spent the last semester of school like in DC, and then ended up coming back here to California around January-ish. And yeah, I kind of like, I want to stay in California, but at the same time, like I love what DC kind of is able to offer, just because everything is kind of just so tight knit, and there's so much kind of just happening, that like I it's definitely a preference to be like in a city as compared to like a suburb.
Yeah, I feel you there. I'm actually from California originally, but I live on the East Coast now. And I know exactly where you're talking from, because my family is from the Roseville area, right by you there, near Sacramento.
like in Sacramento too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I grew up around Sac, and I grew up around the Bay Area, so I have all the best of those worlds. We'll have to, after this interview, we'll have to talk about a certain taco place that I love that you may have heard of or not.
I love food places. Let me know.
Oh man, I got it all queued up for you, so I'm just ready to hit the trigger. So
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it this whole every time since you said Sac, I've just been going, okay, well, we're gonna talk about this taco place right after.
Man, Sacramento sure does have like their array of different restaurants. Like I'll say that much. There's so much. There's every single time I come back to Sacramento, like there's a different restaurant that's popped up, completely different flavors and like different selection of stuff that's happening. Whether it's like, I've seen like a Korean burger spot. I've seen like different types of tea places, of course, like vegan, vegetarian, like sushi restaurants. Like,
I'm ready.
I know, go Sacramento and food.
I'm so ready. I've been locked up in the East Coast for so long, and every time I get a plane ticket to come out and see the family, if something happens, like everything is going crazy. So I've had to stay home for a year or so. It's crazy. But yeah, I think we'll close the interview out for now, and then yeah. We're gonna have you back, so I'm not worried. We went over a lot, and yeah, I'm very excited that everyone got the chance. So
yeah,
so
definitely.
Well, thank you again. We'll close out for now, and then yeah, we'll do this again for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a pleasure being here. It was like a complete joy talking with Heather, just being able to like just talk about like the whole artistic creative journey, being able to talk about my culture, being able to talk about One Day Sium, and how I think that blockchain technology can assist with the international refugee crisis. It's been amazing. I really enjoyed it. I love being part of the whole whale community and the whale family. So shouts out to everybody here. And yeah, I can't wait to be back.
All right. Okay. Thanks again. Okay. And stick around. I want to send you that taco place.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.